Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey man, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. John Mulaney in that Hollywood Reporter Roundtable was asked, what would a John Mulaney type be if someone were casting a John Mulaney type? Mulaney said, when it has come up, it means like a genital-less, soulless wooden boy who's fast on his feet. John adds, I'm much less nerdy than people think, whatever that means. I feel a little more weight in my feet when I walk around. Iliza Shlesinger had her proverbial car waxed by Billboard. There is just a massive campaign going on trying to get her an Emmy. Billboard said, I was blown away when I learned you don't write out your jokes except for a few key words. Have you always had that ability? Iliza said, I guess so. I never questioned it or thought about it. It's only in the last few years that I've been asked about it. I figured everybody had a little list of words. I know people like Joan Rivers had a whole card catalog, but what I do is ephemeral. I'll talk about Joan. I worked with her on her radio show in 2001. She would sit there with two writers. There was like the young guy who would have the hip references and the older, more established guy. Joan was amazing because these guys would write down jokes on a card, pass them to Joan, and she would deliver them in her style, in her voice. And, you know, some of the younger references, she might not even have known what the reference meant, but she knew how to tell a joke and would nail it. It was really great. Every night there were a ton of index cards which we threw out, and here 25 years later on the fly, I'm thinking, oh, I probably should have taken those out of the garbage. That would have been pretty valuable to have now 25 years later. Not that I'd sell them. I would just donate them to the Comedy Museum. But anyway, that was the thing that happened back in 2001. Iliza said, I'm only using the material for about a year, and anything that I don't use gets jotted down as a word or a sentence or two. I don't have a library, and maybe that's stupid. Maybe I forget punchlines that I could have used. I have a famous bit among my friends. It's about Las Vegas. I did it on the road for a year. I never wrote it down. To this day, my husband's like, why don't you do your Vegas bit? And I'm like, I can't remember it. So I have to rely on random friends and my husband to remind me, what was that I said about curling irons by the pool? Also, I write so much material. I believe the good things stick when I'm creating that hour. To me, that's the litmus test. It's also a great way to fight off Alzheimer's. It's normal to do a joke 2,000 times, and then on the 2001st time, you're like, wait, what was the punchline? But for me, that's where the craft and practice come in. I go up a lot, and I love doing it, and I'm always running and rerunning and fine-tuning, because when I do my special or go out on the road and people spend a lot of money to see me, I want them to see a polished product, not me sifting through a notebook or being drunk on stage. More from the Emmy campaign. Billboard was like, your production values are polished and sophisticated. Iliza said, I appreciate that. Call me old school. I like a shiny floor. I like a high production value. Lo-fi production for sure has its place, and we live in a world where people are getting famous off a TikTok clip from the Giggle Hut, but there's something special about getting to create a special. I agree there. I like the show business of it all. I want people to feel like they're watching something of quality, and I believe what I create is of quality. Well, guys, if you listen to this podcast, I don't have to tell you who the king of comedy is. You know who the king of comedy is. Obviously, the king of comedy is Jack Black, because he's going to receive the King of Comedy Award at the 2025 Nickelodeon Kids Choice Awards. Jack Black is the second person to receive the award King of Comedy. Now, obviously, who would be the other King of Comedy if not Jack Black? Only one name comes to mind, the great, hilarious, all his movies are fantastic, his act isn't stupid at all. The King of Comedy, Adam Sandler, of course, given the honor back in 2023. Jack Black will accept the Silver Blimp on stage on June 21st. I know you're looking forward to this. It'll be on Nickelodeon, Teen Nick, Nicktoons, Nick Jr., MTV2 apparently still exists, and CMT. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Put it on your calendar. So Jack Black, the king of comedy. But if you listen to this podcast every day, I don't have to tell you who the queen of comedy is, do I? No, of course not. Say it with me. Sommore. Of course, Sommore, the queen of comedy. I got this press release here from the upcoming Because They're Funny DC Comedy Festival, and they included this paragraph. Hailed as the queen of comedy, Sommore is celebrated for her razor-sharp wit, trailblazing stand-up specials, and unforgettable roles in films such as Friday After Next and Soul Plane. Anyway, the queen of comedy, Sommore, and Jay Farrow are the headline acts at the 3rd annual Because They're Funny DC Comedy Festival. It is not until October, but they've had a pretty nice lineup the previous 2 years, so looking forward to that one. Leanne Morgan spoke a little more about her upcoming sitcom Leanne. In Leanne, Leanne Morgan plays Leanne, whose life is upended when her husband of 33 years leaves her for another woman. Starting over when you're a grandmother and in menopause isn't exactly what she had in mind, but with the help of her family, she will navigate this new chapter with grace, dignity, and Jell-O salad comedy writing rule of 3. But she wants people to understand this is fiction. She explains, the premise is not based on my real life. It's based on my comedy. but it would be too weird to be about me and real-life husband Chuck Morgan and my real children. It was Chuck Lorre that came up with the premise of my husband wants a divorce and does it over email and has had an affair with a younger woman, and here I am, a grandmother, blah, blah, blah. I just did all that. Tim Daly plays her new love interest in the show, and she had to kiss him, something she asked her real-life husband about beforehand. She explained, I had to say to real-life husband Chuck Morgan, I'm kissing Tim Daly in this episode, and I go, does that bother you? Leanne says it doesn't bother her husband because Chuck Morgan wants me to make money. Roseanne told Fox News Digital about having an accident with a tractor that left her with, quote, several injuries recently while working on her hill country ranch. I had this one tree, I guess it was 2 nights ago. I knocked at it and a big old branch fell right on my head and trapped me in my tractor. Roseanne said it took an hour to move the tree branch, which she described as weighing 100 pounds. I was like, oh, I'm 72 years old. But I just said my mighty prayers always work. I said, come on, God, I'm 72 years old, and I just want to be able to harness all the strong Russian energy that I know I still have in me if you're with me. And then I flipped it. She told Fox News the one drawback from the yard work is I don't clear the trees as good as I should, and I'm always hitting a tree and knocking it over, and it always hits me in the head. Okay. Her son told Us Magazine that Roseanne splits her time between Texas and Palm Beach, Florida. She's been busy writing scripts and that she may make a return to TV. The Television Academy has revealed the Hall of Fame class of 2025. Many people getting in, including Mac Packer, Henry Winkler, and Conan O'Brien. The 27th Hall of Fame class will be inducted in L.A. on August 16th. Congratulations to those guys and the others. Brett Goldstein caught up with the Wrap and said he's been a comedian for like 2 decades, but I've done 17 years of stand-up and there's no proof. I could be lying. I've always resisted filming. I never put stuff I did online. It's about the live experience, and I feel that quite strongly. There's a pact you make with the audience, which I love. The exchange happens in a room with an audience, and when you take that out of context and stick it on the internet for people to weigh in on, I sort of think, yeah, this wasn't for you. It was for the room and where we did it. He had that pretty darn good HBO special recently, and he said it became a challenge of how do you make it work on screen? I know it worked in the room, but how do you edit stand-up? How do you frame it? Where do you cut into a joke? Thank God I work with brilliant people who knew what they were doing because I was constantly like, how do we make sure this is funny on screen? I don't know what people were expecting when they came to see me. It amazed me that they bought tickets, not knowing me as a stand-up. I think it probably worked in my favor because their expectations must have been pretty low. Maybe they thought I was going to come out and kick a ball and say, F off and leave, and that would be enough. But instead I came out and did stand-up as myself. In a way, it's helpful because I promised them nothing, and their expectations are low. So when I'm a competent stand-up, I seem like I'm really good. Bob Odenkirk is starting to ramp up press for Nobody 2. He spoke with Esquire and said, most movies don't work. They just don't. Out of 100 movies, there's like 2 classics in there. There are 12 worth seeing. There's another 15 that are fine, and the rest are a mess. More advice from Bob Odenkirk. If you don't want to take risks, don't be in this business. You know, people who make their work too precious and take too long to put it out, I always say, what do you think you're making? Last week I told you about the Stephen Colbert Book Club, probably the coolest thing going. Well, Keenan Thompson is now putting out a book. What is going on? I guess he saw Jimmy Fallon making children's book money. So Keenan Thompson is releasing his first children's book, this one called Unfunny Bunny. Unfunny Bunny follows Unfunny Bunny as Unfunny Bunny embarks on his first day of school, determined to be the class cut-up when his jokes fall flat. Unfunny Bunny learns about unexpected friendship and pursuing your dreams. The story contains 30 unfunny jokes throughout, with illustrations by Tony Neal. Margaret Cho went on social media listing the fillers, injections, and cosmetic procedures she's had on her face. She said, "This is a 56-year-old woman." She revealed that her chin is fake, stating the whole chin is filler, and added she's injected Sculptra, which sounds like a science fiction villain, like, oh, we got to stop Sculptra. Nope, Sculptra is an injectable that stimulates collagen production. She's injected Sculptra into much of her face, which sounds like something Sculptra would do, right? Sculptra wants to capture you and inject stuff into your face. That's what Sculptra would do. Margaret Cho says her lips are natural, although she once had filler there, but not recently. She also said she'll entertain the idea of a facelift, saying, I'll lift whatever. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, please tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you'd like the program without commercial interruption or fee drops, there's a link in the show notes, or go to calaroga.com/plus. If you're on Apple Podcasts, click the banner that says uninterrupted listening. $5 a month. All that stuff goes away, and you get nothing but your daily comedy news. See you tomorrow.